In the sprawling archipelago of the Philippines, a nation of over 7,000 islands and 100 different languages, one tongue has long been a subject of debate, pride, and sometimes insecurity. English. For decades, the world has held a perception, a stereotype, that while many Filipinos can speak English, it's often seen as a second language, functional but not masterful. They said Filipino kids couldn't truly compete on the global stage, that their accent, their Taglish slang, would always hold them back. They said our English was good for call centers, but not for the world's most prestigious podiums. They were wrong. This is the story of how one child, armed with nothing but a dictionary and a dream, shattered that illusion and proved everyone wrong. Our story begins not in a bustling metropolis, but in a small, quiet town, far from the international schools of Manila. This is where we meet our protagonist, a young girl named Raina. Like most kids her age, Raina's world was a vibrant mix of Filipino culture, family gatherings, and the constant hum of local life. English was something she learned in school, a subject taught from textbooks filled with foreign concepts and unfamiliar rhymes. The English she heard on TV sounded so different, so perfect. It felt like a world away. Her community was supportive, but the unspoken belief lingered. English was the language of others, of foreigners, of the elite. It wasn't truly theirs to master. From a young age, Raina was a voracious reader. She devoured every book she could get her hands on, from local folk tales to dog-eared English paperbacks found in second-hand shops. For her, these weren't just stories. They were portals. Each page was a conversation with an author from a different land, a lesson in how words could paint pictures, evoke emotions, and build worlds. Her parents, simple folk with humble jobs, couldn't afford expensive tutors or a library of brand-new books. But what they gave her was far more valuable: unwavering encouragement. They saw the fire in her eyes and fanned the flames, telling her that her dreams knew no boundaries, no language barrier. While some neighbors would gently jest, "Why so serious with English? Are you planning to leave us?" Raina just smiled. She wasn't planning to leave. She was planning to bring the world home. Her journey wasn't easy. In school, she sometimes felt like an outsider. While her classmates played during recess, Raina could often be found with a dictionary, meticulously looking up words she didn't understand. She would practice pronunciation by mimicking news anchors on the television, repeating phrases until her tongue no longer stumbled. She faced gentle teasing, with peers calling her walking dictionary or asking why she tried to sound American. These moments stung, but they never deterred her. Instead, they fueled her resolve. She wasn't trying to be someone else. She was trying to be the best version of herself, and that version spoke the language of her books, the language of the world. Her English teacher, Mrs. Santos, saw her potential. She recognized that Raina's passion wasn't just about grades, it was about communication. She gave Raina extra assignments, challenged her with complex literature, and encouraged her to join the school's small, underfunded public speaking club. The turning point came when Mrs. Santos discovered an announcement for the Global Youth Oratory Competition, an international event that brought together the best young speakers from around the world. The grand prize was a university scholarship and international recognition. It seemed like an impossible dream. The Philippines hadn't sent a delegate from a public school in years, let alone one. The competition was dominated by students from elite institutions in native English-speaking countries. "They are born into it," a colleague told Mrs. Santos. "How can our kids compete?" But Mrs. Santos looked at Raina and saw not a disadvantage, but a unique strength. Raina didn't just speak English, she had fought for it. Every word she knew was earned. With little time and even fewer resources, they began to prepare. Their training ground was an old, stuffy classroom after school hours. They didn't have fancy recording equipment, so Raina practiced in front of a cracked mirror. They didn't have a team of professional coaches, just Mrs. Santos with her red pen and unwavering belief. Raina chose to write her speech on the power of a borrowed tongue, a deeply personal exploration of what it means to find your voice in a language that isn't your mother's. She wrote about how English, for her, wasn't a colonial relic, but a bridge to connect with different cultures, to understand different perspectives, and ultimately to share her own story, the story of a girl from a small Filipino town, with the entire world. Her speech was raw, honest, and powerful. The day of the national qualifiers arrived. Raina, in her simple school uniform, stood on a stage surrounded by impeccably dressed students from Manila's most expensive schools. You could feel the skepticism in the air. Who was this girl from the province? But when she began to speak, the room fell silent. Her English was clear, her delivery passionate, and her message universal. There was no trace of hesitation, no sign of insecurity. She spoke with an authority that came not from privilege, but from purpose. She won. The judges were stunned. The girl who wasn't supposed to be there was now going to represent the entire country. The news sent ripples through her hometown. The walking dictionary was now their champion. The community that once questioned her dedication now rallied behind her, holding bake sales and fundraisers to help pay for her plane ticket. Raina arrived at the international competition, a whirlwind of different flags, languages, and cultures. She was intimidated. Here were the students she had only read about, the ones who had every advantage. The old doubts began to creep back in. They were right, a voice in her head whispered. You don't belong here. But then she remembered her journey. She thought of her parents, of Mrs. Santos, of her entire town cheering her on from thousands of miles away. She wasn't just Raina anymore. She was the embodiment of their hopes. She clutched the small Philippine flag pin on her blazer and took a deep breath. Her speech wasn't just about a borrowed tongue anymore. It was about the strength found in being the underdog, the beauty in bridging worlds, and the proof that talent knows no geography. When her name was called, she walked to the center of the global stage. Under the bright lights, she looked out at the sea of faces and began. They say that to truly master a language, you must be born into it, she started, her voice ringing with quiet confidence. They say my tongue is borrowed, my accent a flaw. But I am here to tell you that this borrowed tongue has given me a voice I never knew I had. For the next 10 minutes, she held the world captive. She spoke of her home, of the beauty of her native language, and of how learning English didn't erase her identity, but expanded it. She argued that true fluency isn't about having a perfect accent. It's about having something important to say, and the courage to say it. When she delivered her final line, "My tongue may be borrowed, but my voice is my own," there was a moment of stunned silence, followed by a thunderous standing ovation that shook the hall. Raina won. She became the first Filipino from a public school to win the Global Youth Oratory Competition. The news exploded back home. She wasn't just a local hero. She was a national inspiration. Her victory challenged a long-held national insecurity. It proved that Filipino kids could not only speak English, but could master it with eloquence, passion, and a unique perspective that was all their own. Raina's story demonstrated that our so-called disadvantages, our multicultural background, our multilingual brains, our resilience, were actually our greatest strengths. Raina didn't just win an award. She redefined what it meant to be a Filipino on the world stage. She showed everyone that our English isn't just good enough for call centers. It's good enough to change the world. Her victory sent a powerful message to millions of other kids in small towns and provinces. Your voice matters, your story is important, and the world is waiting to hear it. So the next time someone tells you what you can't do, the next time they put you in a box based on where you're from, or how you speak, remember Raina. Remember the girl who turned a borrowed tongue into her greatest weapon and proved that with passion and hard work, a kid from anywhere can stand on a global stage and leave the world speechless. Thank you so much for watching. If Raina's story inspired you, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more stories that challenge our perspectives. Let us know in the comments what you think. Until next time, keep sharing your voice.